For special meetings, which this is, public comment takes place only for items on the agenda. If you wish to speak on any agenda item, you must submit a speaker card. The cards are located at the table immediately outside our boardroom. Speaker cards must be submitted prior to the close of the public comment portion of the agenda item for which you'd like to speak. In the event the board has a large number of speakers on one or more items, the board president reserves the right to limit each speaker's time for public comment to accommodate more speakers. Okay, calling the meeting to order. Roll call. Carol.
Marilyn Nemser.
Sure.
Lee Delpan.
Present.
Curtis Robinson.
Present.
Nancy McCarthy. Sorry. Cindy Johansson.
Present.
Joe Sartori.
Here.
Okay, we're all here, moving along. Do I hear a motion to approve and adopt the agenda?
I move. I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
You got a public comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda?
We want
Yeah.
public comment, Daniel?
Thank you. I appreciate being reminded. Okay.
So, there's no public comment today?
It's a special meeting, so there's no public comment for items not on the agenda. There's public comment for items that are on the agenda. It's a special meeting. That's the rule.
The public comment for items that are on.
That are on the agenda.
Okay, to be clear, but she said only consent only.
That's one of the items on the agenda.
Okay, well, that's a different one. So, well, there's no open time today. I see. There's no open time. My name is Damien. I'm born and raised in Wayne City, and I'm a town high graduate, and I'm here to talk before you, as I always do, regarding racial terror in the TAM district. I know it's consent agenda, but there's no, I have to say what I have to say because there's no open time. That's not fair when you don't have a regular meeting, John and Carol. You should have it. It's discretionary. I'm not here to cause problems, but TAM has serious issues. TAM has leadership issues at the principal level that's just taking place right now. The previous principal was let go because of, as we see, racial issues. From my understanding, the principal is leaving now because of racial unrest. There are kids leaving TAM High School because of racial issues. Black and white students are leaving TAM High School because of racial issues. Black and white students. All right? TAM High, the district has serious issues. John, you ran for this. Let me go backwards. You guys had a meeting a few months ago regarding, you had a meeting a few months ago regarding cards, how to submit cards and public comment. And one of you said, oh, I repeat myself, right? I'm not sure who said that, but I want to remind you, the TAM district, there were repeated racial issues, repeated racial terror. But you'll comment about me repeating myself, but you won't have a meeting regarding racial terror in the TAM district. We have serious issues. When will you take this on, John? You ran on equity and making things right in that district and county. When will you take this on? And when you take it to the community, talk about issues in our community. Black kids, Black families are under terror. It's important. I'm gonna repeat as you say, oh, Daniel repeats himself. Yes, I'm gonna repeat myself because there are repeated racial terror in the district. Kids are leaving the district because of racial incidents. It's important. I'll be back until I'm unable to.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, there is. Ava?
Thank you. We understand that transportation is on the consent calendar. I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I'm slightly out of breath. Just made it in from the East Bay. And I had to come in today, in the rain, and against very high winds because your last meeting, there was a forced cancellation because one of your board members, decided to tank, the meeting, essentially. It's a little frustrating. I do want to point out that when this happens, nothing good is achieved. I mean, essentially what happens is there can't be a discussion of the issue that the board member thought was so important to have, and that was the Oak Hill project. So I'm using this opportunity, this transportation item, just to tell you that, you know, a board member who on a whim decides to do that is showing pure contempt for the citizenry and the taxpayers. And I don't want to see that happen again. I did have a 20-minute interview with Nancy McCarthy following Thursday. Some of the things she said deeply disturbed me and concerned me, and I'll be writing about that more. I wanted to make sure I came to this meeting so I could see what was going to happen here, what was going to transpire after the forced cancellation meeting. Thank you.
Any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. You need it. Okay, I think we can move on to our action item. We're here to approve the second interim financial report. Bree Brown.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Provided in front of you in paper is a copy of a presentation, and John Lenz will be showing me how to use the keyboard. All right. So provided in the board packet was the full, what we call SACs or standard account code structure forms that everyone might be used to seeing every single interim and budget period, along with kind of an extensive cover sheet of what the governor's budget entailed and what's coming up. I'm not going to summarize that today because the number one question I get is what's going on with the federal budget, and the bottom line is we don't know. So I'm not going to participate in any speculation today. We just unfortunately don't have any new information on it. So what I can provide you with information on is what our budget cycle looks like. And so what our budget cycle looks like here at MCBE is, and we'll circle around to how this pertains to our second interim, but we pretty much start in January. We basically have almost a 2-year budget cycle, about 6 months before the fiscal year and 6 months after the fiscal year, where we start in January and we start working with departments, and then we move on to the budget in June. I'm going to skip around here a little bit. We can kind of move into the budget in June, and then we start having the interim reports. So first interim is the first reporting period of the budget updates, and second interim, which is right now, is our second report on the budget for the current fiscal year, the 24-25 year. And so we're just giving you updates, actuals through January 31st and budget through the current date. The next step in this fiscal year is going to be our unaudited actuals that will happen in October. We have had a lot of curiosity and questions about what our revenue sources entail, and so I kind of wanted to highlight and hopefully waylay people's concerns about our federal percentage of our budget, and only approximately about 7% of our budget is based on federal revenues. So while that is significant, it's not, if there were a delay in funding or a delay in cash, it's not enough for us to stop operations. One thing that changed significantly based on student counts at and also on property taxes at second interim was our LCFF calculation. And inside the memo, I had mentioned that there was a shift in our property taxes. And just kind of wanted to include this slide to remind everybody that while county offices, unlike school districts, when we receive property taxes in excess of our entitlement, it actually is returned to the state. So county offices don't get to keep their funding the way school districts get to keep their funding, or when they're called basic or community funded districts. We actually return our funds to the state and they use that to fund the court system. So when we receive less property taxes and our entitlement goes up, our excess taxes and our payment to the state decreases. And so I was just trying to illustrate that in this slide because I had some questions about that based on the memo that had gone out last week along with the budget. Overall, our expenses have changed a little bit from first interim, largely due to prorations for vacancies and increases to maintenance and facility improvements, along with some restricted budgets that received new grants and related supplements. Sorry, I meant to highlight that on the last slide that overall 69%, actually a little bit more than 69% of MCOE's expenses go directly to student-related programs, and I think that's an important thing to know. And this is just the form. I know we have some newer board members, and so I wanted to make sure everybody felt comfortable if you wanted to read that big ugly packet, that this is kind of how you read the SACS forms. So within the packet that's shared online, if you want to open up one of the SACS forms, you might see the term projected year totals, and that's just kind of the term for second interim. So if you're interested in looking through those, this is kind of a little guide on how to read those. So next steps for our 25-26 budget preparation. And right now we're meeting with departments and we're working with our LCAP partners and we're lining out the plans and the wonderful things MCOE wants to do for students and other community partners. And the next step is going to be getting the May revise. The governor's May revise, the governor released his budget in January. The next step is going to be getting the governor's May revise, which is due statutorily around May 14th. And then we will have our LCAP and budget hearings on the 10th of June, and we'll have our final LCAP and budget adoption on June 24th. And then I just include this because again, we've got some new people on the board, so I thought maybe, I know I'm an acronym person, so hopefully I'm not too guilty of using acronyms that people aren't understanding. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Sally?
That's just a comment, it's just a comment. So number one, could you please explain to the audience that it's not a choice of the MCOE, or we don't arbitrarily say that we're going to prepare the interim budget as of now because we feel it is. We are dictated by certain guidelines on that. That's the first comment I have. And secondly, you know, when we were discussing this, you mentioned actually that if I'm to look at this 100-something pages of a report, the one that I would really focus on is this because it's really indicative of a lot of the information that's in the report. Will you share that page as well with us?
So I don't have the actual report in front of me, but if I were to first, let me say, the reason I gave you the timeline is all of those things on the timeline, they're statutorily dictated. That is in code. It's not something that we're arbitrarily choosing or is convenient for us. We follow the same code as the school districts, so school districts are also required to have those exact timelines. The only place where a county office differs from a school district is their a school district's unaudited actuals are due in September, but because the county office is statutorily required to review those, they give us an extra month. And so our unaudited actuals aren't due until October. So that's the only place we vary from a school district. But other than that, school districts and county offices are dictated through the law for those dates. They're not optional. And yes, today was the final date for us to submit that to the state. The second part was the two forms that I would say are the most important things to include or review if you're going to go into your SACS forms. Me personally, I like the form 01. So that's the county school services form. And the reason I like it is it was the one there, we go back, that I was showing as a sample, because it really shows the difference in that farthest column from the last reporting period. So that's kind of going to show where okay, this area of non-capitalized equipment, the 4,400, that just means anything over $500, like between 500 and 5,000. Changed only about 1%, and with a budget our size, that's really immaterial. And so I think that those percentages are something to look at, but again, if you ever have a question, please send me an email or ask me, because there might be something that has a higher percentage, but there's always an explanation behind it. Numbers don't make up themselves, there's always a reason for why. And then the second one is your MYP page, and it's called Form MYP. That one's always just a good indicator of where we're at.
I have a question as well. I know you don't want to predict what may or may not happen with the federal government, but, and I don't either, but has there been any communication from the state about what they would do, if anything, to fill any shortfalls that were previously provided by the federal government, such as funding for special education?
You know, we have not received anything, but part of the governor's budget included the discretionary block grant, which they had basically said was going to be their budget balancer, and so that will go up and down as other needs arise. So if we do have the need for additional funds, it is more than likely that the state would use that discretionary block grant that was proposed through the governor's budget and adjust it up or down based on where they would allot other monies.
Great, thank you.
Cindy?
So Bree, I wanted to thank you. I thought your memo was really clear and I appreciated your explanation you just provided. I'm interested in understanding a little bit more about the stabilization fund. Do you have an estimate of how much you think you'll draw down from that fund this year?
You know, I don't have that information ready for me or ready for you right now, but it's something I could look into and get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions from the board? Okay, there any questions or comments from the public?
There's one public comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me see. Data and hydrogen. As we know, the federal issues, I guess they're federal issues, call it what you want. Regarding the Department of Education, there are many Black scholars that are much more, I guess, educated than I am. And what they're saying is, as far as the DOE goes, blow it up. Blow it up, let it fail, fall apart, who cares? Who benefits from the DOE? Not Black people. The DOE is designed for white people, white families to benefit. The DOE does not help Black families. When I've been told the state level and DOE federal level that when things have to change for the better, they change it to offset the improvements. So as we know, in Marin City versus country, we have improvements, they twist it because they don't want change. So as far as the DOE goes, as they say, blow it up, cancel it, get rid of it. Because now when it affects white people, you get up in arms. Interesting. John, as you know, Marin City are taxpayers too, right? Right. Marin City residents, the homes there also pay taxes. But what are you doing? Not that you care. People say, you don't care. You don't have to care. You're in a seat to serve everyone. What are you doing to offset the racial issues in the TAM district in your position? Not as a loving human being, but in your seat to serve all. What are you doing? That's what I want to know. I'm going to keep asking until I get an answer. If I see some improvement, some movement, some differences of taxpayers in Mill Valley, taxpayers in Sausalito, taxpayers in Marin City. As I said, there's so much stress with the racial terror in the district. Lots of trauma continues. I went there, and as you know, regarding the DOE, federal, state, the suspensions of defiance has been changed. Why? Because of the terror of the TAM district and TAM's administration. All those things are related to trauma, stress, terror on Black students. So John, I can't wait to see the day of this board, MCOE, takes on racial terror as a serious thing. I'll be back, but the one thing that'll change as I leave, lawsuits. Good seeing you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you,
Lawsuits.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess it's time, is there another comment? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it is pretty scary watching the cuts, part of it, and I think everyone's right just to say it's hard to predict. It's impossible to predict what's going to happen. I do want to point out that some of what Damian Morgan was talking about, I think you can clearly see in some of the financials. Some communities are treated very poorly and disregarded, and some are held on a pedestal. If you look through the archives, San Francisco State has really interesting archives from Marin City and the rest of the county, 1960s, 70s, a little bit into the 80s. And you see the issues that people were dealing with at that time, and they were really, really serious. And they're no less serious now. And a lot of it had to do with education. And I don't think I've seen the county more segregated than it is now. With regard to finances, I do have questions about the money that the state is moving through this school district into the JFCS for the Holocaust and Genocide Education Program. That's $8.5 million. That would, frankly, given the issues with that program, would be better spent on underserved communities. We have a lot of underserved communities, and they're deeply in need. And I think with any cuts from the Board of Education, from the Department of Education, we need to prioritize Black and Latino students particularly. And so I hope that we can take a look at whether it's appropriate for the state to be directing money into JFCS for what, educators throughout the state find to be a very problematic program and bias. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments?
I haven't had an opportunity to speak. I didn't realize we were talking about the budget.
Yeah.
Should I submit a card and speak as a member of the public?
No, I think if you have we've already passed the budget, we've already approved it, so I don't see a place for that.
So you're not going to permit me to speak even as a member of the public?
Oh, we haven't approved it yet, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. No, correct, John. So if.
I have something to say.
Mhm.
I'm very concerned about the finances of MCOE and the fact that they're now putting forward a guarantee or suggesting that they will put forward a guarantee for housing as opposed to taking care of some of the needs that have been spoken about here. They act in deficit spending, and now they are going to wind up putting at risk a tremendous amount of money when we don't know what's coming from the Department of Education. We don't know what's coming from the federal government, and it could be nothing very soon. California has been targeted by the Trump administration, and I expect that there probably will be significant cuts. If there are federal cuts to this entity, it will lose 10% across the board, at least, of its funding, and yet we're going to guarantee, talking about guaranteeing, going out and talking about guaranteeing without sufficient information about the funding. In addition to that, I have recently learned and sent a letter to council about the conflict of interest of the member of the board that we have here voting on this matter and sitting on the JPA, who would have a financial interest in the outcome of the building of the Oak Hill project.
Excuse me, Trustee McCarthy, I think we're looking for comments on the budget before we approve it.
That's correct. And therefore, we have someone sitting on this board that has a financial conflict of interest in the context of the Oak Hill project, which is going to be affected by this budget. This budget,
Danielle, I would like your help with this.
The second interim doesn't reflect any obligations with respect to the Oak Hill project.
I understand that, but the budget is the budget, and whatever you wind up voting on now is going to ultimately affect what's in progress, and that is trying to convince people to vote for the Oak Hill project, which is going to affect the finances of this organization. You're gonna be putting at risk millions of dollars that you're gonna have to take from someplace else. So I've stated my opinion on this, and I'm very concerned that this is a financial obligation that is not being considered in this budget.
Thank you. Are there any other board questions or comments? Okay, I'd like to hear a motion for approval.
I move to approve the second interim financial report.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those, is there any discussion? Hey, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed for the reasons stated.
Thank you very much. Okay, item number 4, we are up to adjournment. Are there any public comments on adjourning this meeting?
We have public comment.
Well, it's on this, I don't think so.
President Gunter, it's a procedural matter, so you don't normally have public comment.
I know, it is on my script. I'm trying to be obedient here.
Apologies.
That's okay. All right, I'm waiting for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay,